Daniel Hartwell was starting to regret ever agreeing to let his assistant play matchmaker. He checked his watch again, wondering if this perfect woman even existed, when the door to Riverside Cafe swung open, and in walked someone who looked nothing like the confident marketing executive he'd been told about. At 39, Daniel had built his consulting empire with precision. Every plan, every move, every detail carefully calculated. That same control had shaped his personal life too, especially after he became a single father to his 5-year-old daughter, Lily. There was no room for chaos. Not anymore. So when his assistant, Rebecca, insisted he go on a blind date with her friend's sister. She's successful, grounded, and loves kids. Daniel reluctantly agreed. But the young woman now standing by his table didn't match that description in the slightest. She clutched a faded purse like it was armor, her simple blue dress showing signs of wear. There was a quiet nervousness about her, like someone who didn't belong in a place with white tablecloths and violin music. "Excuse me," she said softly, her voice almost drowned by the murmur of dinner conversations. "Are you Daniel Hartwell?" Daniel straightened, studying her uncertain expression. "I am," he replied cautiously. "But I think there's been some mistake. I'm supposed to be meeting Catherine Morrison." The woman swallowed hard, her cheeks coloring. I'm her sister, Emma. Catherine couldn't make it tonight, and she sent me instead." For a moment, Daniel just stared, trying to process that sentence. "She sent you instead?" Emma's voice trembled as she continued. "Catherine had a last-minute client emergency. She didn't want to cancel on you, so she asked me to come, just to keep her appointment." Her eyes darted toward the exit like she was already halfway to leaving. Daniel could see the embarrassment flickering in her hazel eyes. But beneath it was something else, an exhausted kind of acceptance, like she was used to being someone's backup plan. "Please, sit down," Daniel said gently, motioning to the chair across from him. Something about her unease stirred something inside him, something softer than curiosity. Emma hesitated, clutching the strap of her purse. "Mr. Hartwell, I really don't want to waste your time. Catherine is the one you were supposed to meet. I'm just the substitute." Daniel's lips curved faintly. "Maybe so," he replied. "But you're here now, and honestly, I'm curious to meet the kind of woman brave enough to show up for her sister's blind date." Emma gave a nervous laugh as she slowly sat down, perching on the edge of the seat like a bird ready to fly away. "It wasn't bravery," she murmured. "It was more like obligation. Catherine said it would be rude to leave you waiting." Daniel found himself oddly drawn in. There was no practiced charm here, no performance. Just a young woman trying her best to be polite in an awkward situation. "So," he asked, leaning back slightly, "what does Emma Morrison do when she's not rescuing her sister from social disasters?" Her smile was small, almost apologetic. "I work at a daycare center downtown," she said. "Nothing impressive. I help take care of kids whose parents work late. It's not glamorous, but it keeps the lights on and the fridge mostly full." Daniel couldn't help but notice the honesty in her tone. Most people he met in business were wrapped in layers of polish and pretense. Emma was the opposite. Open, almost disarmingly real. "Do you like it?" he asked quietly. Her eyes lifted then, and for the first time her face brightened. "I love it," she said simply. "The kids are incredible, so honest, so curious. Even when life isn't easy for them, they find reasons to laugh. They remind me how to see the world differently. Every day they teach me something new." Daniel felt a warmth spread through him, the kind he hadn't felt in a long time. "I have a 5-year-old daughter," he said, smiling softly. "Lily? She's probably convincing her babysitter to let her stay up late right now." Emma's genuine smile reached her eyes this time. 5 is such a magical age," she said. "Old enough to ask deep questions, but still young enough to believe every answer." "What's she like?" Daniel chuckled as he began describing Lily's latest adventures, her attempts to teach their golden retriever to read, her elaborate tea parties, and her firm belief that broccoli would taste better if it were pink. Emma laughed, and the tension in her shoulders finally melted away. "She sounds delightful," she said softly. "And you sound like a wonderful dad. That's rare these days." There was something in Emma's tone, something quietly personal behind her words, that made Daniel pause. But instead of prying, he simply asked more about her work, genuinely curious. Soon he found himself lost in her world, a world filled with small hands, big hearts, and stories that carried more meaning than any corporate meeting ever could. Emma spoke about the children at her daycare, the ones who arrived sleepy and hungry before sunrise, and the ones whose parents worked late into the night. She described how she turned old boxes into castles and empty milk cartons into art projects, how every day was a puzzle of love, patience, and creativity on a shoestring budget. "There's this little boy, Marcus," she said, her face lighting up. "His mom works 2 jobs, so he's with us from morning till evening. When he first came, he barely spoke a word. But last week he comforted a new girl who was crying. He gave her his favorite crayon and told her yellow was the color of sunshine, and sunshine makes everything better." Her voice softened on that last line, and Daniel found himself smiling without meaning to. He was completely absorbed, forgetting about the high-powered marketing executive he'd expected. This woman in front of him wasn't here to impress anyone. She was here because she cared. She understood something money couldn't buy, the quiet beauty of kindness. "Emma," Daniel said after a moment, leaning forward slightly, "I have to ask, why did Catherine really send you tonight?" Her comfort vanished in an instant. She looked down, twisting the silver ring on her finger. "The truth?" she whispered. "Catherine saw your photo and panicked. She thought you were too good-looking, too successful. She said she'd probably freeze or say something stupid." Daniel blinked, caught between surprise and disbelief. "So she sent you instead?" he asked slowly. Emma nodded faintly. "She called it a practice run," she admitted, forcing a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "She figured if I met you first and told her what you were like, she'd know what to expect. Catherine's brilliant, but dating terrifies her. And, well, I usually just help." Daniel's chest tightened, not with anger at her, but at the quiet resignation in her tone. "And you agreed to this?" he asked gently. She shrugged, eyes still fixed on her hands. "Catherine helped me pay for community college when I got my childcare certificate. I owe her a lot. Besides," she gave a small, self-conscious smile, "it's not like I had big plans tonight." Daniel leaned back, studying her face in silence. Here sat a woman asked to fill a seat meant for someone else, treated like a placeholder, yet she carried herself with grace, humility, and heart. Finally he spoke, his voice low. "Emma, what if I told you I'm not interested in meeting Catherine?" Her eyes snapped up wide with disbelief. "But she's beautiful, successful, sophisticated. She's exactly your type." Daniel smiled faintly. "Maybe that's the problem." "She's everything you should want in a partner," Emma said, almost pleading, as if trying to talk him back to reason. Daniel tilted his head slightly. "According to who?" he asked softly. "Emma, for the last hour you've been telling me about your work, your kids, your world. You've talked about joy, kindness, patience, about finding beauty in small victories. Those are exactly the qualities I'd want in a partner." He paused, his voice deepening. "And those are the qualities I'd want in someone who could help raise Lily." Emma froze, staring at him as though she hadn't heard right. "Mr. Hartwell, I think you're confused," she stammered. "I'm not. I work at a daycare. I rent a tiny studio apartment. My car breaks down every other week. I'm not the kind of woman men like you date. Men like me, Daniel repeated quietly. And what exactly do you think men like me want? Her answer came instantly, as if she'd rehearsed it her whole life. Success, status, a woman who looks perfect at charity galas, who can hold her own in front of CEOs and investors. Someone who won't embarrass you. Daniel's chest tightened at the sadness in her tone. He could see it now, how deeply she believed it, how many times life had made her feel small for not fitting someone else's mold. Emma, he said gently, leaning forward, can I tell you what I actually want? She didn't speak, only nodded faintly. I want someone who knows the most important conversations happen at bedtime, not board meetings. Someone who listens when a child explains their dreams, who believes kindness matters more than appearances. I want someone real, someone who'd show up for her sister's blind date even when she had every reason not to. Emma's breath caught, her eyes glistening with tears. You don't mean that? She whispered. I absolutely do, Daniel said firmly. And Emma, would you let me take you and Lily to the Children's Museum this weekend? Not as Catherine's stand-in, not as anyone's obligation, just because I'd genuinely like to spend time with you. The invitation seemed to knock the air from her lungs. She glanced around the restaurant as if searching for the hidden camera that would reveal this was all some elaborate joke. But Daniel's expression was steady, sincere. I don't understand, she murmured, shaking her head. Why would you want to spend time with me? When you could have Catherine? Daniel reached across the table and gently took Emma's trembling hand. Because in the past hour, he said softly, you've shown me more authenticity, compassion, and quiet wisdom than I've seen in months of business meetings and polished introductions. Because when you talk about children, your entire face lights up, and that tells me everything I need to know about your heart. Because you walked into an uncomfortable situation just to help your sister, and that tells me what kind of loyalty lives inside you. He paused, searching for the right words. And because when I picture introducing someone to Lily, I can't think of anyone I'd rather have her meet than a woman who understands that a child's favorite crayon can be the most precious gift in the world. What grew between them in the months that followed surprised almost everyone, except Lily. She had adored Emma from the very first day, tugging at her hand and calling her Miss Sunshine. Emma's patience, her playfulness, her natural gift with children. All of it made her a perfect fit for the quiet spaces in Daniel's life he hadn't even realized were empty. But what astonished Daniel most was how he changed. Emma taught him to slow down, to see beauty in small, ordinary moments. The messy pancake breakfasts, the bedtime stories, the laughter echoing through their home. She helped him redefine success, not by numbers or deals, but by presence, peace, and purpose. And Emma, in turn, began to believe something she never had before, that she was worthy of the love she gave so freely to others. With Daniel's encouragement, she enrolled in night classes to earn her bachelor's degree in early childhood development, determined to one day open her own preschool for working families. 6 months later, Daniel proposed, right in the middle of one of Lily's elaborate tea parties. Stuffed animals served as witnesses, and Emma's favorite yellow crayon stood in as a makeshift ring until the real one could be fitted. Lily squealed with delight, declaring it the happiest tea party ever. When Catherine finally met Daniel at their engagement party, she pulled him aside with a sheepish smile. I have a confession, she said. There was no emergency meeting that night. I was just too nervous to go. Daniel chuckled, glancing across the room where Emma and Lily were laughing together, their joy filling the air like music. I never imagined I'd fall for Emma either, he admitted. But that's the thing about life's best surprises. They show up when you least expect them. He watched as Emma bent down to help Lily pass out cupcakes. her laughter bright and real. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "the most beautiful love stories don't begin with perfect plans, but with the courage to see unexpected worth in unexpected places."